There's a secret most men never discover until they've lost everything. Women don't operate on logic. They operate on patterns. Every move, every emotion, every test she gives you has a purpose. The problem? You were never taught to read the code. What if I told you that every heartbreak, every mixed signal, every silent treatment has a reason you can predict? These aren't mysteries, they're patterns. And once you learn them, you stop chasing explanations and start controlling outcomes. Stay with me. By the end of this, you'll see women in a way you never have before. Most men learn these truths only after heartbreak, divorce, or betrayal. They wake up one day realizing they never truly understood the women they loved, only the version they were allowed to see. In today's world, where freedom and choices shape every interaction, love has become a battlefield of mixed intentions. But here's the truth. I'm not here to bash women. I'm here to decode them. Because once you understand how the female mind works, you stop reacting and start leading. In this video, I'll reveal 12 brutal truths about women every man must know. Lessons that will protect your peace, sharpen your awareness, and help you take back control. If this message already resonates, subscribe, like, and share your thoughts below. Let's begin. Number 1. The comparison game. You're always measured against her past. Every woman you meet carries echoes of her past, her first love, her heartbreak, her disappointments. These experiences become invisible rulers she uses to measure every man who comes after. When you make her laugh, she remembers who made her laugh first. When you hurt her, she remembers who hurt her worse. You're not competing with the man before you. You're competing with her memory of him. Most men try to win that invisible contest, thinking if they outshine the ghost, they'll finally earn her peace. But that's a trap. You can't outperform the past because it's not real anymore. It's a story she keeps rewriting to protect her ego or justify her pain. The more you chase her validation, the deeper you sink into someone else's narrative. Instead, establish your own frame from day one. Make it clear that your relationship won't be built on comparisons, but on standards. Let her see that you're not trying to be better than anyone before. You're defining what better means now. If she's emotionally mature, she'll recalibrate and meet you in the present. If she's still living in nostalgia or resentment, she'll resist and project. That's your cue, not to argue, but to walk away. You're not her past. You're her now. And if she can't see that, she's not ready. Number 2. Leverage is fool's gold. She respects power, not you. Many men mistake leverage for leadership. They think if they earn enough, look sharp enough, or build enough status, a woman will stay loyal. And maybe she will. But not to you. She'll stay loyal to what you can do for her. That's the illusion of leverage. It works only as long as the benefits keep flowing. The moment it stops, so does her devotion. What she truly respects isn't your money or your muscles. It's your certainty. Your ability to stay grounded when circumstances shift. The man who builds his worth on external things eventually loses both the woman and himself, because everything he depends on can vanish overnight. Leverage can attract attention, but it can't sustain respect. It buys cooperation, not admiration. When she senses that you need her validation to feel powerful, she'll test you, subtly at first, withholding affection, challenging decisions, or comparing you to someone more successful. The goal isn't to destroy you, it's to see if your strength is real or performative. The cure is inner discipline. Develop principles that don't crumble when your situation changes. Lead with composure, not control. When you stop measuring your worth by what you have and start embodying who you are, her respect shifts from conditional to natural. When you stop leading with leverage, you start leading with power. Number 3, hypergamy never sleeps. Her standards evolve faster than her value. Women are wired to seek the best option available, not out of malice, but instinct. It's part of their emotional survival code. Hypergamy isn't about greed, it's about security. The problem begins when reality can't keep up with the fantasy. As a woman's beauty peaks, so do her options. She gets used to the attention, the validation, the pursuit. But when that attention fades, her expectations rarely do. She still believes she deserves the same caliber of man, even when her effort, youth, or emotional stability no longer match what she demands. This is why so many modern women chase high-value men while offering less in return. Not because they're evil, but because they're deluded by constant validation. As a man, your role isn't to shame that instinct, but to master yours. Don't chase hypergamy. Let it filter for you. When you operate from strength, focus, and clarity, you'll naturally repel the entitled and attract the grounded. A woman who truly values you won't measure your worth by your wallet, your looks, or your followers. She'll respect your direction and your discipline. Never beg to be chosen. Be the choice that her fantasy can't afford to lose. Her fantasy isn't your enemy. Your lack of standards is. Number 4. Emotional fragility. Feelings always beat logic. When a woman feels, she doesn't think, not in the way men expect. Logic speaks in order. Emotions speak in urgency. That's why most arguments between men and women never find resolution. They're operating in different languages. You're trying to fix the problem. She's trying to express the pain. Her emotions are waves. They rise, crash, and recede. If you panic when the tide comes in, you drown with her. But if you stay still, grounded, calm, she eventually matches your rhythm. That's the unspoken truth about emotional leadership. The one who controls the tone controls the outcome. Don't try to out-reason her when she's upset. The moment you start explaining, she'll hear excuses. Instead, mirror her emotion with presence, not submission. Listen, acknowledge, and wait until her emotional storm passes. Once her nervous system resets, then logic can enter. Emotional fragility doesn't mean weakness, it means volatility. And volatility needs stability to find balance. That's your role, not to silence her emotion, but to steady it. Most men lose their power by reacting to her reactions. But the calm man, the one who refuses to be dragged into emotional chaos, becomes magnetic. Control your frame, and her emotions will recalibrate to yours. Number 5. The father gap. Principles start where guidance begins. A woman's first understanding of boundaries, respect, and stability often comes from her father. When that foundation is missing, something critical is left unformed. Not her beauty, not her ambition, but her inner compass. Without male guidance, many women grow up defining value through attention, not accountability. They confuse intensity with intimacy, validation with love. When a woman hasn't experienced a grounded father figure, her emotional world becomes reactive. Every disagreement feels like rejection. Every boundary feels like abandonment. She tests men, not because she enjoys chaos, but because she's still searching for the structure she never had. This is why men must learn to vet beyond attraction. Ask questions that reveal her emotional architecture. What shaped her? Who taught her what respect means? How does she handle being told no? The answers will tell you whether you're building with a partner or a project. A woman who has healed her father wound carries calm. She doesn't need to challenge your authority to feel seen. But one who hasn't will constantly test your patience until you become either her savior or her scapegoat. You can't build a future with a woman who's still healing from her father. Number 6. Respect or nothing. Boundaries define value. Respect isn't requested, it's enforced. Every woman, consciously or not, tests a man's boundaries to understand his strength. It's not always malicious, it's instinct. She needs to know if the man she's with can protect his peace when emotions, attraction, or temptation are in play. If you fail that test, she won't hate you. She'll just stop trusting you to lead. The modern man often mistakes tolerance for maturity. He lets small acts of disrespect slide, sarcasm, attitude, emotional manipulation, because he fears losing her. But here's the irony. Every time you ignore a boundary, you teach her that you have none. Boundaries are not walls, they're frameworks. They tell the world, this is who I am, and this is what I stand for. When you articulate them early, you eliminate confusion and filter out chaos. When you reinforce them consistently, you earn her respect, even when she disagrees. And yes, there will be moments when she pushes back, just to see if you mean what you say. That's not the time to argue. It's the time to act. Calmly disengage. She'll either align with your standard or expose her disregard for it. Either way, you win clarity. A woman respects what you enforce, not what you explain. Number 7, accountability resistance. She'll rarely admit she's wrong. When emotion dominates, accountability becomes a threat. For many women, admitting fault doesn't just mean saying I was wrong. It feels like losing safety, losing control, or losing love. That's why, in the heat of conflict, logic becomes irrelevant. She's not defending her point, she's defending her identity. Most men try to force accountability by confronting, debating, or proving their case. It never works. The harder you press, the more she retreats behind emotion. Her voice rises, her logic bends, and suddenly, you're the villain in a story you didn't write. The antidote isn't aggression, it's strategy. Ask questions that make her reasoning turn inward. Calmly guide her to connect her own contradictions. For example, if it's unfair when men do this, why is it okay when women do? Questions like that bypass defensiveness because they force introspection, not submission. When you approach conflict with composure, she has two choices: reflect or deflect. If she reflects, growth begins. If she deflects, you have your answer about her maturity. Either way, you win clarity without chaos. Never argue for accountability. Frame it so her own logic leads her there. That's leadership. That's emotional intelligence. Let her logic defeat her emotion. That's how she learns without losing face. Number 8, feelings over duty. Happiness has replaced commitment. Modern love has a fragile spine. It bends under the weight of feelings. Today, I'm not happy has become a valid reason to abandon years of promises, vows, and effort. Many women have been conditioned to believe that happiness is the measure of truth, that emotion outranks responsibility. But the truth is simpler and colder. Feelings are temporary, duty is not. Happiness fluctuates with circumstance. Duty anchors you through it. The woman who treats duty as slavery will never respect stability. She only respects stimulation. She'll chase the next emotional high, mistaking excitement for connection. But when the rush fades, she'll call it incompatibility, not inconsistency. Before you commit, ask questions that reveal how she handles dissatisfaction. What does loyalty mean to her when she's angry? What does commitment look like when she's bored? If her answers revolve around how she feels instead of what she chooses, she's not ready for partnership, she's ready for pleasure. As a man, your job isn't to make her happy every day. It's to lead with integrity, consistency, and direction. The right woman will find her happiness within that structure. The wrong one will destroy it trying to feel free. A woman who treats duty as optional will treat you as replaceable. Number 9. Validation addiction. The silent killer of relationships. In the age of constant attention, validation has become currency. For many women, it's no longer enough to be loved by one man. They crave the applause of many. Likes, comments, and compliments have replaced intimacy as their emotional oxygen. The problem isn't the attention itself, it's what it costs. When a woman's sense of worth depends on external approval, her loyalty is divided between you and her audience. Validation addiction is subtle. It starts with harmless selfies and harmless praise. But soon, every quiet moment feels like withdrawal. She needs the next hit, a new outfit, a new admirer, a new stage. And if you try to compete with that need, you'll lose, because you can't outshine an addiction that feeds on endless supply. The woman who values validation over connection doesn't build relationships. She builds mirrors. She wants to be seen, not understood. To her, love becomes performance, and when applause fades, so does affection. Your role isn't to police her attention, but to discern her values. Choose women who are at peace in silence, who don't need the world to confirm what they already know about themselves. Attention is her drug. Don't compete with her addiction. Number 10. The male friend illusion. Every brother is a standby option. Every man knows this tension, even if he pretends not to. The so-called male friend, the harmless co-worker, the old classmate, the man who gets her, exists in almost every woman's orbit. But what most men refuse to acknowledge is that these relationships are rarely neutral. Emotional availability is the new intimacy, and every man she lets in emotionally becomes a potential candidate, whether she admits it or not. When women say, "He's like my brother," understand this. Brothers don't wait for opportunities, but many brothers do. They play the long game, offering empathy instead of honesty, patience instead of principle, waiting for one weak moment to make their move. It's not always her fault. Many women underestimate how easily emotional openness can blur into attraction. But it becomes your problem when you ignore your instincts. You don't have to control her friendships. You only need to control your participation. If she defends a friendship more than she respects your relationship, pay attention. If she hides conversations or becomes defensive about boundaries, that's not innocence. That's investment. Real relationships can't coexist with blurred lines. The woman who values you will protect your peace, not test it. Every man waiting in her inbox is a test of her loyalty. Number 11. Beauty fades. Substance doesn't. Every man falls for beauty first. That's biology. The mistake is assuming beauty means value. Physical attraction ignites desire, but it can't sustain depth. A woman's looks can draw you in, but her substance decides if you stay. When her charm fades, when her body changes, what remains must be enough. Otherwise, what you've built will dissolve the moment the thrill does. The modern world teaches women to invest in appearance, not character. Filters, aesthetics, and attention become the new currency. But beauty with no emotional intelligence, no humility, and no capacity to nurture, that's an empty house with a polished door. It looks good from a distance, but there's nothing inside worth coming home to. Ask yourself this. If she lost everything that makes her desirable to the world, would you still admire who she is when the lights go off? If the answer is no, you're not choosing a partner. You're renting an illusion. True value isn't in symmetry, but in steadiness. The woman worth keeping is the one who grows with you, not just glows beside you. She doesn't compete for attention because she's too focused on building something real. She doesn't need to be perfect, but she must have depth. Number 12. The leadership paradox. She follows when you lead with certainty. Leadership isn't about control, it's about direction. Every woman, no matter how independent she appears, seeks emotional safety. Not because she's weak, but because feminine energy needs stability to flourish. When you lead with confusion, she reacts with resistance. But when you move with clarity, she relaxes into your certainty. A man who hesitates invites chaos. A man who leads from conviction creates peace. You don't need to dominate her decisions or dictate her choices. You only need to stand firm in yours. She doesn't want a master. She wants a man who knows where he's going and why. Most men lose authority not because they're unkind, but because they're uncertain. They ask for permission to be masculine, to make decisions, to lead. And when a woman senses that weakness, she fills the space with emotion, control, and confusion. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does attraction. Your calm conviction is her signal of safety. It allows her to soften, trust, and follow without feeling diminished. But if you abandon your direction to avoid conflict, you lose both her respect and her devotion. Leadership is not dominance, it's direction. You've just heard 12 brutal truths about women. Not to fear them, not to control them, but to understand the game you've been playing blindfolded. Every truth in this list points to one thing: awareness. Awareness of who you are, what you allow, and how you lead. The comparison game teaches you not to chase ghosts. Leverage reminds you that external power fades. Hypergamy reveals that only true standards survive. Emotional fragility shows you the value of control. The father gap warns you to discern emotional wounds. Boundaries remind you that self-respect is non-negotiable. Accountability teaches you patience and composure. The conflict between feelings and duty exposes the difference between passion and principle. Validation addiction uncovers the quiet cost of attention. Male friends test loyalty. Beauty warns you not to mistake aesthetics for depth. And leadership, the final truth, ties them all together. When you lead with certainty, everything aligns. Understanding women isn't about building armor. It's about mastering awareness. The moment you stop reacting, you start leading. That's when respect, attraction, and peace naturally follow. Women aren't the enemy. Ignorance is. If this message woke something in you, if it made you reflect on past mistakes, or see patterns you can no longer ignore, then don't let that awareness fade. Subscribe to this channel and keep decoding the female code. Share this video with a man who's still trying to love without understanding. Leave a comment below. Tell me which truth hit you the hardest and why. Because the moment a man learns how the game is played, he no longer needs to fear losing. You don't win women by outsmarting them. You win by mastering yourself. Learn the code. Control the game.